All right. Well, we're live. So, hello, everybody, and welcome to another season of Backwoods Investigations, season four. Tonight, I have a very special guest. He's a good friend of mine. He is from the New River Valley Bigfoot Researchers Organization, and he's also a co founder of the ECBRO, the East Coast Bigfoot Researchers Organization. He was a speaker with me at the ECBRO Virginia Bigfoot Conference here back in June 30th, July 1st, whenever I had the first opportunity to personally meet this man. He is a seasoned veteran whenever it comes to field research. And all around, he's one hell of a guy, folks. I'll say that up front. He's a really good friend of mine, even though he is a hair shorter than me. But I want everybody to make welcome the Sasquatch Outlaw, Mr. Tracy Arnold. How you doing, Tracy?
Hey, you doing good, Zach? Thank you for having me on, and has a hell of an introduction.
Well, we've been trying to get you on here now for I want to say since about before I started, whenever I started this back in 2016. Things just ain't been going right. But we were supposed to get you on here last season. We ended up cutting it short because I took the summer off. But we're back, and I'm honored to have you on my channel. So thanks for coming on. But let's get down to business. Let's have some fun. Go ahead and tell the viewers who you are, what you're about. Let's get to know Tracy Arnold.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Zach. It was a great pleasure to meet you and get to hear your presentation of introducing everyone at the EC Barrow conference with Daniel's conference and everything this year. Uh, just to be honest with you, I'm down to earth. I'm boots on the ground, and I've got more of an open mind than a lot of people does about Bigfoot, UFOs, and ghosts. It don't matter what it is. Uh, if there's something there to interest my peak, I'm there on it. uh, the last 6.5 years, I've learned more about myself than I ever thought I would, as far as my mind. Uh, taking a lot of stuff in, and criticism is what I'm talking about. A lot of criticism comes with being a researcher of Bigfoot or any kind of cryptid, that's out there or not out there. Uh, I leave it on the table. Everything I find, I criticize my own evidence before I put it out, and still yet, the only true evidence I have is a sighting that I had. Personal discovery is what I call it. You got to have a personal discovery before you really realize what's going on around you and what these creatures really are. So,
Well, that is a good and like you said, talking about a personal discovery whenever it comes to Bigfoot. Um, I believe that wholeheartedly because when you start off, you don't know what to believe really until you actually see these creatures face to face with your own two eyes. And up until that point, really, uh, you are a believer, but then you're a knower, as Sam DeLoach puts it, you're a knower um, regarding Bigfoot. But you said that you've had your own encounters. But before we do that, let's start off. Let's talk about your group. We'll build this up towards your encounter. Tell us a little bit about the New River Valley Bigfoot Researchers Organization that you're head of.
well, that's uh, I started this thing. I think it'll be 5 years this coming January. 5 years old, the New River Valley Bigfoot organization, and it has really grown. Right now, I have 9 different researchers uh, in the area of the New River Valley. Uh, I know there's, pretty much Dennis Taylor is my sidekick here in the New River Valley, along with Cliff Stanley, Eric Klein, uh, a bunch of them around. I can't go through all the names. Even Castella. If y'all watched the Virginia episode of Finding Bigfoot, the guy that had the Bigfoot go across the log in front of him, and Renee and Cliff was there with him, and they showed the Bigfoot going across the log. He's even a part of the New River Valley Bigfoot organization, and I kind of kicked off with pretty much just myself, and then Daniel come along. He helped me with it quite a bit, and him letting me be a part of the ECBRO and being co-founder, it's taught me a lot about what to look for in a group and how to place people in a group. As far as what I found out was you got different parts of your group that need to know certain specific things, and uh, we have analysts of Bigfoot footprints. We got a good guy there on that, uh, and that be Cliff Stanley. Vocalizations and video, footage analyst Dennis Taylor, and there's a couple out in near Wise County and up in West Virginia that's a part of the New River Valley Bigfoot organization. They've got their things they're good at too, like the audio, and they've actually got some good pictures of Sasquatch that we haven't revealed yet. And I'm thinking, it's going to take a little time for the group to discuss what to do with these pictures before we turn them loose to the public. I think, you know, that's what a group does. They work together and analyze first and knock out what could be before they put it up front to show everybody. And, you know, as far as, as far as this group, I mean, we've got 17, I think, wait a minute. I'm trying to think how many members we got. Well, I think we've got over 1,700 members in our group, in the group, in the actual New River Valley Bigfoot organization page, that are part of it. They watch, they like, they comment, and I think that's one way to, you know, you're making awareness to what's going on in the New River Valley, and I think a lot of people appreciate it. And I think what we do as a group is pretty much stick together and make the right decisions and not come out with a bunch of false tree evidence, is what I call it, the tree stump evidence. And you know, and anybody can go out and cast a double step and bear print. But right now, uh, from what I have seen in our group, we've got over probably 16 real good Sasquatch footprints, and it's documented that we have Sasquatch footprints right here in the New River. So that's what it's all about: is documenting and keeping reports. And uh, certain areas we call them Rock Truckers Mountain, Sasquatch Mountain, Sasquatch Road. I mean, we've got different areas, and not everyone knows where these places are at, except for some of the people in the group that are from this area. So, I mean, it's going to be hard to hoax us if somebody does come in the New River Valley and say, okay, we're going to hoax Tracy Arnold. Well, he was over on Sasquatch Mountain. I wonder where that is. Well, there ain't no Sasquatch Mountain here. It's nicknamed that. So I think that's one way that this group can, that's why I always say keep it real. We're going to keep it real because there's no one there that knows where we're at that can hoax us. And that's where I stand with the group. I mean, it's a growing group. It's still growing today, but at the same time, I've kind of slacked off on the group a little bit. I've been on to this YouTube kick for over a year now, and it's growing. And as soon as I get it to where I think it needs to be, I'm gonna kick it back over to New River and do the YouTube at the same time.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of your live YouTubes. I've tuned into a couple of them since you started doing them on your channel, Hiking with the Sasquatch Outlaw. Be sure, guys, before we go a little any further, be sure to go down in the description and you can see the links to the New River Valley Bigfoot organization in the description, along with the link to Tracy Arnold's YouTube channel, Hiking with Sasquatch Outlaw. Be sure to go ahead, like, request to join the group, like, subscribe, and comment and share. Tell old Tracy, old Blimp sent you. But we got a guy here on the live chat that you might know. He's a certain hairy fella from Waynesboro, Virginia. Mr. Daniel Benoit says, "Hey Tracy, love you, brother."
Hey, Daniel, love you too, brother.
But
That's cool.
you had the opportunity here whenever we was there in Virginia, and I was driving. I drove all the way with my mother, all the way uh, from Southern Illinois to Virginia, and I noticed a big change in the landscape whenever we was going down 64, and you go right from flat land to mountains in the nick of time, in no time. And why is it you think? Do you believe that the Appalachian Mountains and the Blue Ridge Mountains and the New River Valley, they have what makes them so different from us out here in the Midwest whenever it comes to Bigfoot? Your thoughts on that?
Y'all have a lot of water, right? You live around a lot of water, swamplands.
Well, we got wetlands,
Yeah,
creeks, we got bottom rivers, we got river waterways, we got the Wabash, the Ohio, and then the Mississippi.
right. Y'all can have all different kind of Sasquatch. I mean, these the ones around this area, they live in the deepest parts of the mountains. I mean, they go in uh these big hollers and valleys, and they could stay hidden, tucked away. Nobody would know they was there. Uh, our elevation is not as high as out west, but they use this elevation for their advantage. They can stay high and see all around them, and anybody comes into those woods, they know they're there. They can use the rivers to travel. I mean, the rivers to travel, the Appalachian Trail to travel. Uh, they're not much. I believe it or not. I believe that they're not much into traveling. I believe that there's just certain ones that do travel. I believe the rogue squatch or the squatch that's alone will travel. But as far as family groups, I believe they stay in a certain area and just move around that area within 50 miles. I mean, that's been what I've said for years because I've researched in 6 counties over a period of 4 years. Uh, and these counties surround the New River. And not everywhere I've went, I have encountered anything to do with Sasquatch. There's been just a few places, and just by the reports that I've gotten over the past 6 years, uh, there's been a hike in certain areas at certain times, and it's been maybe 3 to 4 years apart. And the sightings or the vocalizations, and it's one particular area I studied for a long time. It was called, I think I called it Sasquatch Trails. I'll give you the location because I'm not really down there much anymore. Uh, it's in Blacksburg. Right there as you pass by Virginia Tech, you go going toward 460 towards Pearisburg, uh, and that takes you over to West Virginia, where I actually almost that's where I had my encounter with a Sasquatch, the daytime encounter. But that area showed me, I stayed in there for 3 solid years, every day, 4, sometimes 5 times a week, putting audio recorders out, putting trail cameras out, you know, keeping them out there, hiking all the trails. Once a week, I'd hike a different trail that would go like 3 to 6 miles. One day I went up there and, well, let's see, 4 or 5 days straight. I went up there and hiked every single trail, and it was like 11 trails. And I was up there all day from like 8 o'clock that morning till 4 o'clock that evening, hiking trails every day. And that area taught me so much about how the Sasquatch actually move that it's actually, I actually documented it that Sasquatch travels quite a bit. They might stay in an area for, like it, in particular, this area, they stayed in it for 3 months to 4 months at a time. And that's when the, the game and fishery department was stocking the pond the heaviest. After that, they moved on. And then they went to the areas where there was no hunting at all. And it was during hunting season. They stayed there. And then the next 5 months, they were back and forth between really deep in the woods to at the pond. And they'd be back and forth, back and forth. That was their travel. And it would take them 3 days to travel, you know, that that area of about 15 miles that I was in. And it just seemed like it was a no-brainer for me when I started finding the 18 and a quarter inch tracks, the 14 and three-quarter inch tracks. And it was a no-brainer that, okay, I'm finding these prints here, right? Well, 6 months later, 15 miles away, I'm finding the same size tracks on the same trails, but just that far away. And they were traveling up and down, up and down. They go low at some point, and then they come back high to the next series of months. And I believe this to be the way Sasquatch travels. I mean, it may not be 15, it may be 15 miles, it may be 50 miles, but within that documentation of that group of Sasquatch that I was documenting, that was their travel for 3 years was within that 15 miles. They was in that area because you got to take a Sasquatch that weighs, just take a young one, say 6 foot, weighs 480 pounds, uh, give or take. I mean, that's shoulder width and mass, muscular, 400 pounds. You take a bear standing up that's 6 foot tall, it's probably around 300. And he's mostly fat and a little bit of muscle and a lot of teeth, right? You take a Sasquatch that is 6.5, 7 foot tall, weighing anywhere from 400 to 600 pounds with shoulder width of 4 foot, is gonna eat a lot of food. It's gonna eat a lot of deer, a lot of fish, a lot of crayfish, a lot of bark, a lot of different roots and stuff like that they eat. Uh, Even the weeping willow trees. If you'll notice in a Sasquatch area, they'll damage a certain part of that tree to get what they need out of it. Yeah, for a headache. That's what the weeping willow. That's what the Indians used was parts of the weeping willow to get rid of the headaches. And but certain animals they know what to go for to get rid of headaches, sore throat, stuff like that. So, but in that period of time when I was in that area, I learned so much about what they eat, how they travel, how many there is, how tall they are versus the weight of the footprint, and over the last 6 months, I'll be honest with you, uh, I've learned a lot about the mountain right here at the house. I mean, right behind us here. Within city limits, we've had a bear killed by a car hitting it. In the same area, we have had 3 coyotes killed by cars hitting it, where they crossed a road at the creek to get to a pond where there's fish. Now, Sasquatch, I mean, if they get hungry enough, which I doubt them coming into town up here, but who knows? We've got vocalization from Michael Gimlin's land. He's a part of the New River Valley Bigfoot organization. We've got vocalization from the cave area that we have just received again this year on this side of the mountain. There's probably about an 8 mile difference in the audio recording, but it's the same vocalization. So we're really learning not so much a lot about what Sasquatch is, but how we conduct our research. And I think that's what makes real research is conducting the research and seeing what comes out of it over a period of time, not just not just kicking it under the rug and leaving it there for a month and then pulling it out and looking at it, but keeping everything fresh in your mind so when it happens again or it keeps happening, you can document it with the same documents you've already got. Just keep it. It's like a big puzzle. If you would see my notebooks, how I've got them all, worded and categorized to what has happened, what type of eye shine I seen this time, what footprints I found this time, and from the reports of people that come in. If you put all that together, and it's making a lot of sense now that there's not just one Bigfoot, there's not just one family group, and there's not just one species of Sasquatch. There's not one type of Sasquatch. There are several types of Sasquatch, and and right now we've got two different types of Sasquatch in the New River Valley, and one is very close to the skunk ape. It's a smaller version, 6 foot and a half, 7 foot, with four toes. And I mean, you
That's
got to look
interesting.
at the big picture. You really do.
That's interesting because I was getting ready to ask you about what do you mean there's more than one type, and you give me the answer before I even asked the question. That's really interesting. So do you think it could be the skunk ape migrating north?
Either that or a different version of the skunk ape. I mean, I'm not really sure how this is working. I mean, it could be, we've got the patty type Bigfoot. Then you've got I don't know what you would call it, the Ohio Bigfoot. It's the grass man, right? Uh, but there's them two are very similar. But from what I have gathered, the grass man being more healthier and more stoutier than the California Bigfoot, the Patterson Gilman Bigfoot. I mean, I've always heard the Patterson Gilman Bigfoot should have been called the Big Ass Bigfoot, but you know, but they're more toned here. They're more toned in on the East Coast. I don't think they're getting as much fatty food as such as over in the West Coast. But I could be wrong. I mean, it's just a fact of what type of report and what type of description you get from different people, and it's all coming down to where we've possibly got two different type here in Virginia. And I think the further down south you go, the smaller they get as far as height, but they're built more. They're more muscular for some odd reason. And I mean, I've never seen a pot belly Bigfoot, but I'm sure eventually somebody will come out with a pot belly stove looking like a Bigfoot.
That's interesting. Like I agree with you. There tend to be more Bigfoot, um, different types of Bigfoot, what I call ethnicity in Bigfoot in an area. There ain't just one ethnicity of Bigfoot in one area. There's going to be at least two or three. And it always depends on their habits and everything, whether they're passive, aggressive, whether they are in big numbers or small numbers. It varies, but no, that's very interesting. And of course, I go and I study and I look at reports of Bigfoot that come up here in Southern Illinois, and I go and I'll try and see if there's any similarity in between Bigfoot in the nearby states. Like I've found reports of with the Big Muddy Monster from Murfreesboro, Illinois, that popped out of the Big Muddy River back in 1970s. And it was a very aggressive Bigfoot that was of similar traits to the Ohio Grassman or the Tennessee Wildman. It was very aggressive towards humans. They actually called the cops out there to investigate, and they found footprints on the riverbank with a real stanky odor permeating around that area. one of the cops said he heard the thing scream and it scared him so bad that he dropped his gun and he wouldn't go back and get it. He took off and hightailed it to the squad car.
Wow.
Yeah. But you was talking about Bigfoot, and you from as long as I've known you, I've always heard about these two encounters. One, especially from Daniel Benoit, where you and Cliff Stanley and Kimmy DeSorda and her husband actually had the encounter with the two individuals at night. The one that I should have ripped you over the coals for whenever I saw you in Virginia because you guys had the night vision in your backpacks.
Well, yeah, yeah, that was the curse of Bigfoot. I mean, I've learned there's a
That
curse
that's
of
that's
Bigfoot.
that's what I tell everybody. They're always saying, "Why don't you have all this equipment with you? Why don't you go and you get a picture?" Well, sometimes it's wrong place at the wrong. It's right place, wrong timing. You go and you're not ready. And it's like whenever I was at that gala back the other night in Carbondale at Southern Illinois University, and I was having to tell this thing, the story of the night from whenever I took the documentary crew out, and they said, "Is this the only time that you've seen Bigfoot and got him on camera?" I said, "No, it's the second time." But I've had several Bigfoot encounters, but this is the only second time I've been fortunate enough to get one on camera. You just got to be ready.
Yep, exactly.
But you're talking about this encounter that you guys had. Go ahead and tell us about that encounter. I want to get your side of the story, start to finish. What was going on that night?
It was
Let's
very
start from
interesting.
there.
It was very interesting. I'm gonna start during the day because it was a very interesting evening actually. Because you know we got there on Friday night and set up a fake tent, fake camp in behind the camp at Daniel Halford's. Set up trail cameras, set up a tent, make it look like somebody was staying there in the dark. Well, we got there late, and that evening was real good because we got to meet everybody and talk to. I got to finally meet Daniel, talk to him, and Kimmy and Darren, and then Cliff showed up on Saturday morning, and he pitched up all his stuff. He had some cool stuff. He had a cool hammock too. Cool hammock tent is what it was. So that's pretty cool. I'm trying to go through and tell you that we tried different things there. The fake tent, uh, and I actually brought a ton of firewood. Not quite a ton, but a lot of firewood. And this one particular piece of firewood I had put up looked like a table. It was like a small, like a foot by 8 inch table. It was kind of like I don't know, shaped differently. It looked like something like an offering table. It's kind of like what it was cut like. Well, we pulled that out just to make sure it didn't get burnt, and took it up in the woods above where we were at. And my son had caught a nice rainbow trout. And well, the idea hit me. Well, let's take that trout up there and put it in this little area where there was a lot of pine cones that had been torn apart. More than likely, bear, deer, turkey. Turkey mostly, I think, was up in there scratching the ground quite a bit. But we had to do something because that's what we were there to investigate the area and see what we come up with. Well, we set the offering table up and we put the trout on it, put a couple of sticks above it, angled the sticks like a teepee structure, an X, kind of like it right there at the offering. And well, long story short, we didn't put a trail camera on it, which I kicked myself in the butt for not doing. And after I tell you the whole story, I'll go back and tell you the finishing of that. Uh, we didn't put a trail camera on it. We just left it like it, and we left it all, left it up there. And I didn't even go back to check on it. Daniel Cliff did. But the night we put the trout out, that evening, we was all sitting around, and it was getting probably about an hour and a half before dark. I didn't know how far we was going to have to walk, but Daniel said, let's just walk and see if we have anything happen, anything go on, look around the area, the roads, stuff like that. So I'd say we walked at least a mile and a quarter from camp to the lake. And I'm not going to give away location. Of course, you probably already know where it was at. Uh, but we actually, it was six of us, and we had not two night vision binoculars. We had two parabolics, and we had a good vocalization. Or Kimmy, Kimmy was our, and she, we all set up at different parts of the lake, which Kimmy and Darren were set up on a little island when you first get to the lake. Uh, my son had actually, we had actually brought fishing poles, and we set up on I think the second or third dock out, uh, and we was gonna sit there and listen across the lake and up in behind us. And Cliff and Daniel went all the way out to the other end of the lake, all the way on the other side. And well, uh, as soon as everybody got in position, I think we had been there probably about 25, 30 minutes. And we had radios, so Daniel communicated, said, Kimmy, why don't you give us a vocalization? And boy, does she run cold chills up my spine just thinking about it. She gives a high pitched, long, woo, like that, real long. I mean, I was like, dang, that was cool. And about that time, Daniel gets on the radio and says, way to go, Kimmy. I mean, we was all excited. Dang, we just done our ECBR first localization, and we're all out there waiting on something to happen. Well, it got real quiet, we was all real quiet and had the parabolic mic up. Well, right across the lake on the other side at the knob, what I call the knob on the other side of the lake, uh, was I mean, this is like probably 2.5, 3 minutes after she done it. It was like a repeat callback of what Kimmy did, and it was mind blowing. I was like, "Holy crap, we've got a Sasquatch over there," And I'm shaking a little bit. My son, he's like, "You think that could have been a coyote?" you know, I'm like, "Yeah, I could hear a coyote doing that call." So it's kind of like up in the air for us, and I thought, well, I think that was a squatch. What I say. And Kimmy and them were flipping out. She got a call back. So a few minutes goes by, and I think he do another call, and we didn't get a response on the second time. And uh, I heard, I think Daniel came over the CV and said, we got some movement. We got something moving. And I'm like, okay. So we're sitting there listening, and they're about 3 or 4 minutes later. Daniel said, Tracy, uh, this thing just passed us and it's heading in your direction. I'm like, oh boy, oh boy. I'm flipping out. I'm ready. I'm ready. I've got my night vision ready. I've got my little camcorder ready or whatever. And I'm sitting there looking, and I'm hearing something move through the parabolic. So I put the parabolic down, and it's coming right up behind of us on the hill, up on the mountain right behind us. And I pull up my night vision goggles. I check it, make sure it's okay. I'm looking at everything on the ground, and I ease up with it. I'm waiting. I don't see nothing. I pull it back down, and my son has a little light on the fishing pole just to see if anything's biting. Well, we're in pitch dark except for that one little light, and I'm looking up in this hill, and there's two red glowing eyes, huge glowing eyes looking down at us. And I'm sitting there going, oh, Elijah, look. And he turns around and says, what is that? I'm like, uh, I don't know. Let's find out. And, I put uh, done my night vision back up. And as soon as I get it up to that point where I'm going to be looking at it, it goes to all snow. It stops working. And I pull it down, and I'm looking at it, and then I look back down through the night vision. It's working. I pull it back up to look at it, and the dang thing stopped working again. And I'm looking around down here, and I can see, but every time I pull it up to where the eye shine is, it's snow, nothing but snow. And that's the first time I ever had that happen. But any kind of encounter like that really get that close. And besides the rock throwing event me and my son had over here at Rock Truckers Mountain. Uh, but that was the one time we had. That was the beginning of the night. I mean, that was the beginning of it. And as soon as the eyes disappear, we hear something crashing, walking to the right, going toward Kimmy and Darren. Well, they're hearing it. They're hearing it coming towards them. And I'm not sure. I can't really recollect what I don't think they saw anything, but they heard it. They can hear it breathing. They can hear how I think they heard how upset it may have been, but I just don't think they seen anything. But I could be wrong. They might have their stories of that, but I know what we saw. I know what me and my son looked up and seen these great big huge red glowing eyes, and I know my night vision goggles had had a default to finding Sasquatch because it just went all to snow. But the times I looked up there through it. Well, after that we decided, okay, we're gonna wrap up. So, you know, my son is sitting there. His knees are shaking together. His jaw's tight. He is so tense. He can't hardly move. Right. So I'm hollering at Daniel. I said, Daniel, I'm gonna have to get my son back to camp because he is ready to go. I mean, I can't. He's constantly shaking. He's tense. I'm afraid he's gonna have a heart attack. And the next thing I know, I see the two lights, which is Cliff and Daniel, and they get up there to us, and they see what kind of shape Elijah's in, and I'm a nervous wreck, and I know we just had a Sasquatch right there on the hill, and I could not see it. All I could see is the red glowing eyes, and so we walked out with him and caught up with Kimmy and Darren. They walked out with us, and uh, we were. I think we had to walk maybe about a quarter mile from the lake uh, to the outhouses, the portage, the Johnny houses, and as we were walking, we actually seen deer eye shine over on the other side of the road, and we all got excited to see that, but we knew it was a deer. All right. After we had that happen, we walked up the road, and Daniel was walking ahead of everybody. Kimmy and Darren's in front of me. Wait a minute, no, they were behind us, and me and Elijah were walking together with Cliff. And we get up to a certain point, and Daniel, he totally stops and freezes and backs up and says, "Ho, ho, 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 ho! Come here, guys, come here, guys, come here! Look, 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 look!" I mean, it was just, it was just like, okay, what is it? And I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna see a hellacious bear. I mean, I'm thinking it's gonna be a big bear. But we get over there, and I'm seeing different color eyes than what I saw. It was kind of like a greenish yellow looking eye, and uh, these things blinked, and they were huge eyes. I mean, they were probably the size of several dollars. And I'm thinking these creatures were probably within about 30, 35 yards from us, the one that we saw first. And it was really closer than what the experience was than what we had the two. We actually had two. I actually had that first one. It was right in front of us, and we looked at it and we hollered at it. And I hollered Sam and day a ho, and I didn't call it a ho or nothing, but uh, I tried talking Freddy language to it, and I screwed it up, by the way. And after we had after we had that one looking at us, you could see it moving side to side, and kind of like got in behind a tree, And the next thing I know, it's backing up and it's going away from us. And then it totally disappears. And then it turns back around. Well, this one individual is standing behind probably 6 foot tall laurel bushes, and it's above them. The eye shine is above the laurel, and you can see it weaving side to side, and then at once it turns and looks to the right, and you could see its eyes looking downward, and then another one pops up right underneath of it, to the side of it, just a little ways, and it has big eyes, and it was acting kind of funny, like going up and down, you know, kind of like what a kid would do. I mean, playful. But these things observed us for, gosh, I'm thinking over 4 to 6 minutes, somewhere around in there, 4 to 6 minutes is what our encounter lasted. It was mind blowing, and there was another one there. I'm very sure there was another one there because when I we was looking at those two, uh, one waving side to side and the other one going up and down, and, kind of that kind of deal. I sensed that something was behind us that entire time. I kept looking around behind us, but I could see eye shine because all the light was facing toward the other way. But I kept, okay, what was that? You know, I was thinking there was one going to sneak up and grab one of us. That's what I was thinking, but it didn't happen. But that experience changed my life, and I'm sure it changed Daniel, Kimmy, and Darren's life too. Uh, Now I'm gonna tell you something sad happened to my son. He grew up, and the boy where I kept him out in the woods for so many years, uh, looking for Sasquatch, looking for Bigfoot. Uh, One time he went to school and got picked on, and after that, he kind of backed away from it. And every time we talk about this encounter, he says, it's probably a bear we was looking at there, because bears' eye shine, they change color if they're mad. It'll be red eye shine, and then they'll go back to the glowing white. And he said, I really can't tell you if that was a Sasquatch. I don't think it was. I think it was a bear. But as of the evidence from the morning after, uh, we went down there and measured tree where the Sasquatch stood. And from what my memory is recollecting, it was over 7.5 feet I know of, the bigger one. And the other one was around 6.5, 7 foot. And I could be wrong. It might be an 8.5 foot, 8.5 to 9 foot. But from what I recollected of the measurements, it was close to 8. It was close to 7.5 to 8. So somewhere around in that ballpark. But you get older and you have traumatic things happen in your family over the years, your mind slips over time. But I'm pretty sure if you get a hold to Daniel, he'll tell you the measurements they got. Which I had to leave right after that, and we had to come back so I can go to work the next day. But oh, the Monday after the event, Cliff and Daniel went up there to look at the trout, and the thing was missing. The stump was turned, and the sticks were messed with. So, and we scuffled the ground up in front around the trout too to get footprints, but everything was so darn hard and packed, you couldn't make out what it was. So it could have been a hawk, a buzzard, a rabbit. Cause I mean, rabbits they'll still smell your stuff and tire it all to pieces just to get the heart. Rabbits eat hearts out of fish if they're laying on the ground. That's
Yeah,
my
that's
story. To it.
yeah, that's sad. What you was telling me. I have been very fortunate and everything, but Whenever I first started off, I started the Southern Illinois Monster Hunters whenever I was still in high school, and uh, even to this day, I still get picked on and ridiculed by folks and everything. They'll go and they'll jokingly ask me, "You found Bigfoot yet?" And that's everywhere I go, and it is sad and everything, but like I say, it comes with the territory. Um, you got to be ready to accept if and when the ridicule comes, because even Bob Gimlin will tell you um, after him and Roger come out with that the film of Patty in Bluff Creek, California, back over 51 years ago. He'll tell you he's most of the time he wishes that he had never even been there because of he said because of the ridicule from people, and his wife actually threatened to divorce him after it all come out and everything. That's the reason Bob stayed out of the public eye for the better part of 35, 40 years.
Yeah.
And but you got to, whenever you're a Bigfoot researcher and a Bigfooter like you and me, you got to have a real thick skin, and basically you got to do like I do, like the penguins in Madagascar say, just smile and wave, boys, smile and wave.
There you go. Yeah.
But I mean that in a comical way, but I also mean that in a serious way too. You got to have a real thick skin, because in the end, you know what happened that you witnessed with your own two eyes. You know what you seen, smelt, tasted, heard, and touched. Uh, in the end, it really all it really matters is what you know that you saw, and people, and you're just putting it out there. It's a person's decision whether or not to take it or leave it.
Exactly. Exactly.
And there was the other encounter that was brought to my attention that you and your son had. Um, Go ahead and tell us about that. Uh, Give us every last detail that you got.
Which one? The one we had the rocks thrown at
Well, if there's more than one, go ahead and tell us all of them.
us? Well, I think one of the most interesting one, the one that got me hooked on Bigfoot was the rock throwing event we had. I mean, that's one of the things that you can debunk real easily. Uh, if it wasn't a person that could throw a 9.25 pound rock over 45 yards through the trees and land directly behind the van you're in, uh, it surely wasn't a porcupine, a deer, or a bear, or a coon. Uh, and that person would have to be a bodybuilder to throw a 9.25 pound rock that looks like a weapon of some kind, like could be used to clunk a deer with. It had a point on it, but it was about 4 inches thick, 9.25 inches long, and about 6 inches wide at the widest point, and it went like a diamond shape. And when this thing hit the ground, it chunked dirt and chucked up rocks when it bounced. I mean, it was a poof poof, boom boom, like that. And when I look back, I mean, when I heard it coming through the woods, I had my foot on the brake, and uh, as soon as I hit the foot on the brake, uh, the rock hit behind the van, and I could see the dust flying and the rocks. And when I looked out on the other side, the side mirror, I could see it bouncing behind the van going the other way. I mean, and to hear it for, you know, 4 seconds before it hit the ground, and then that it's flat and it drops off into a ravine on the other side of that, it would have to be, I done a measurement of 45 yards from the van from where the rock had to have came from, because that's how far I could see. And there was no one there. I mean, this is a road that, uh, you know, some people do travel, And I've gotten reports from that road. People seen them cross the road on that road. And this is before I met Dennis Taylor. But Dennis Taylor is the reason I named it Rock Truckers Mountain because every time he went there, he had rocks thrown at him from the size of pebbles to the big ones, the 4 inch, 4 inch, three and a quarter pound, 4 and a quarter pound rocks. He's had all of them thrown at him. He said one time in one night they had over 9 rocks thrown at him in that particular area we was sitting in that night. And this is before I ever talked to Dennis. We had the rock thrown at us. And of course, me, that been the first time we really went out deep into the woods, driving on the road, had really had an experience happen. And at that time when that happened, I didn't know Sasquatch throwed rocks. I was like, what the hell? So I went and dug up I done some research and found out that Sasquatch threw rocks. So, but me and my son was sitting there and we sat there maybe at the top, we heard something. I heard something cross the road behind us. Like kind of like a three thump, thump, thump. That's all it was. Thump, thump, thump. I was like, oh, what the heck was that? And then we saw a skunk go from the vehicle and go across the road on the other side. He crossed from left to right. Whatever was behind us crossed from right to left. So whatever came across the road behind us ran the skunk out across in front of us. So, and we sat there and I was like, okay, I'm seeing stuff moving through the woods here, something big. And the moon was out and you could see silhouette of something moving. And I seen it moving. I was like, okay, but I'm gonna move down here and see if it follows us. So I crank up the van and we pull down the road, maybe about 65, 70 yards. We sat down there. My son, I clank two boards together. You remember that thing at Matt Moneymaker came out with the two pieces of metal that looked like two by fours, and they went thunk thunk. They clanked them together. They was either made out of
Rings a bell.
high aluminum or hard aluminum or just regular old steel with a
Mm-hmm.
hollow to them. But well, we tried two by fours, just like Matt was doing. Just take two by fours and smack them together, and they were loud, so like gunshots. But we tried that, and we didn't really get no response from the wood knot or nothing like that. But I think we really ticked it off when my son hollered out the window, "Yeehaw!" I like that, kind of like a yeehaw, Duke boys, And well, that really ticked it off because within a minute, maybe less, that rock came through the trees and smashed down behind us. So, I mean, and I've still got the rock. I've got the rock sitting right outside by the porch. And that's just a reminder that, that was the beginning, really. That was the beginning of my journey over 6 years ago. So that's kind of crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had similar encounters like that. Back, I want to say it was back in March or April or May. We was out. Me and my mom and my brother was doing a night recon, and they was patrolling the road outside of this area that I was in, and I was in there trying to stir them up. And my brother was hanging out the passenger side window of the Jeep, and he said that something threw a stick at the Jeep, and it left a scratch on the Jeep. Why is it you think the Sasquatch throw objects like dirt clods and rocks and stuff like that? What do you think they do that for?
Well, let me ask you a question. You got a 180-acre farm, and you've got some hoodlums up there hollering and shouting and hollering
Mm-hmm.
back, hollering at you. What are you gonna do if you don't have a gun?
Well, you're gonna go up there and run them out.
Exactly. You get run out. I mean, they want you to leave when they throw something at you. I mean, that's the obvious reasons. They're not playing. They're not wanting you to throw a rock back or a stick. you know, they're wanting you to get out, go. You're too close. And I think most of the time when they bring attention to themselves like that, as far as throwing something, they're protecting others. They're protecting other
Hmm.
Sasquatch, probably young or their family. Uh, I think you're getting too close, and they're wanting you out of there. Is when they do that stuff.
That's right. Because like I tell a lot of people, whenever you are having signs that Sasquatch are in the area, whether it be vocalizations or objects being thrown at you, be sure to keep an eye out because where there's one, there's going to be more. Because I believe that Bigfoot, a majority of them are family group, and they'll stay in a harem, as I call them, a harem of Sasquatch. They'll stay together. Because they realize it's strength in numbers kind of deal.
And I've got a theory. You know how you've got smaller structures and bigger structures?
Right.
Uh, as far as, the small sticks and stuff like that, the small X's. And then you've got these huge trees that have been broke over, snapped, 9 foot in the air. And then you've got these two big trees laid together that are probably about 10 inches round in diameter.
Hmm.
Uh, I believe they're different signs for different things. The smaller structures, I believe, are meant for us because we're smaller. But I believe that the Sasquatch use the bigger structures to warn other Sasquatch to stay away too, uh, such as like rogue squatches, strays
Hmm.
that have been kicked out of units, family groups. You take how many years has Indians actually had to kick out a member of their tribe for doing something they weren't supposed to do? So
Several
if you
times.
if you take a Sasquatch, is basically lives the same way the Indians does, nature in harmony, and live for each other and live for the gods of the wind, the sun, the moon, the water, the earth. If they live the same way that the Indians do, they're going to do the same basic things as far as what they do in a tribe. Uh, if you're not allowed to be the dominant one, and you want to be dominant, and you don't win, you have to leave that tribe because you have
Right.
stood up. You have stood up to the dominance. You have stood up to the dominant one, and you lost.
Right.
You're out. So they're warning the rogue squatches, the ones that have been thrown out, the ones that are mean, is what I call them. I call them the mean ass squatch. But if you look at it that way, that's a bigger sign for them. I'm still dominant here. You're not welcome.
Right. But it's about time for us to go. But before we do, I got a few closing questions. It's circulating around, and you said how you're open minded to Bigfoot. What, in your honest opinion, not influenced by everybody else, what is your honest opinion from what you've seen in your years of being in the field? What do you think Sasquatch is?
Its own species. I believe it's its own species. Uh, Part of it is like human, but Gigantopithecus is another part of it. Who's to say what it is? Myself personally, until it is documented as a Gigantopithecus monkey, ape, or until it's documented as a part human, uh, or whatever. I mean, if it was human, I'm sure it would be bald by now. Because look at us. I mean, we worry ourselves to death. How would we feel if we had to live out in the woods and be so seclusive that we didn't want nobody to know who we were, knew what we were, knew where we are? How much higher would we lose? How much power would a Sasquatch lose if it was human? Uh, I'm not sure. I mean, I've always been one to be on the bandwagon of Gigantopithecus, but after my encounter of seeing how this one acted, in 2015, I had my daylight sighting at 24 feet away, broad daylight, and only seen from the above the mid torso up, and didn't really see the whole thing, and it scared the living daylights out of me. Uh, Alien, no. Uh, Spirit, I believe they are spiritual. I believe they can uh, play tricks with your mind and be on the other ridge. I believe they can do that. I believe they've got some kind of ability to work through the ground through their feet to let you know they're there and scare the daylights out of you without you even seeing them. Uh, Now, other than that, this paranormal stuff, uh, I believe once you get paranormal in an area, Bigfoot is not too far behind because it's drawn to energy. And spiritual things are energy. Uh, if they're so in tune with nature and there's something in those woods that is of a spirit, they're going to be drawn to it. So keep that in mind too. A lot of people say they've seen Bigfoot disappear. Uh, well, mine did too, but I was backing away. Uh, you know, uh, but I'm getting. I'm gonna be honest with you, Zach. On my live feeds, we have had lights shine on the camera, in the camera. Orbs is what they call it, and these things would glow bright, get dim, fade away, come back, glow bright, and there's no stars on the ground. There's no reflectors nowhere around, and the view of the mountain is nothing but mountains. There's no view of the sky when I started the live feed, so there's no moon in the no moon that can do that. That can come back 2 hours later and do the same thing over again. If you know what I mean, you know how the moon travels. So I believe, you know, there's a lot of people that say that Sasquatch is paranormal, and I'm not quite on the bandwagon with that just yet. I haven't found a portal, but I had a doorway built for me out of trees. Out of if you'll look on my hiking with Sasquatch Outlaw YouTube channel, you'll see a doorway I walk through every single time I put the live feed out. Uh, and it wasn't there the first time I went down that up the trail. And probably within about 2 or 3 times of me putting the live feed up there, this kind of like a doorway showed up, and it was huge. I mean, the tree is laid up about 11 feet in the air across another tree, with another one leaning under it, holding up the other side of it. And I mean, it's weird. It took them 3 times, but just right down from this area is where we had the lights, and I called it Haunted Holler because me and Dennis Taylor went in there and had a BP session, and he got a two on his on that little meter thing he's got. He got like a two, and plus, right when we get out of the truck, he had something whispering in his ear to leave. So there is something spiritual, but is it tied to Sasquatch? I don't think so. I mean, I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, I hope to be shown in the future that I was wrong. But Sasquatch, I believe, is his own thing. I mean, you got to take look at all the nations of people that we have, different types of people. We've got Asian, Mexican, African, uh, Russian, American, Canadian. I mean, we're all different types of human. We're all shaped the same, but our features are different. So, we're finding out now that Sasquatch has possibly four, maybe five different types of species. but it's the same thing. It's still a Sasquatch, Yeti, or Yowie, or whatever, whatever your nation calls it. But as far as you know, being from out of the world, I don't think it's been out of the world. And if it's spiritual, it sure does leave some pretty big tracks.
That's the best way I've ever heard it put. But I do appreciate you coming on the show tonight, Tracy. It's been a long time coming. I'm sorry I didn't really get the chance to really talk to you whenever we was in Virginia, but hopefully I get to see you again there this next year. I'll be speaking there for the second annual conference. Hopefully you'll join us. But before we leave, what shred of wisdom would you leave our viewers with that are interested in being a field researcher or just someone who's just an enthusiast? What shred of wisdom would you leave our viewers with?
Well, I don't know if it's wisdom or just plumb trying to tell somebody, don't do it. Don't go out. Because everybody's going to think you're an idiot. Uh, Now, to be honest with you, uh, you got to have fun with it. You've got to learn the ones to follow and the ones to not to follow. For one, uh, if you're getting into a group that is so close-minded that they see one thing and that's it, and they label it as one thing and that's it, um, you may have problems when you do find out what's really going on. You've got to keep uh, your book with you. Keep a book with you and start out with an audio recorder. If you don't start documenting from the first steps in the woods, you might be missing something from the beginning. So it's always good to document and to question your documenting and to be limited on how much you share with a lot of different groups because there is a suck hole that will suck you into a bad situation, which comes with drama. It comes with backlash of everything you're going to show. So the only thing I can tell you as far as wisdom goes is to experience yourself and be true to yourself. Go out there and learn your other animals, from bear, bobcat, mountain lion, all the way down to the snakes. You got to know everything before you step out into those woods. And be sure if you don't know the area, get to know it before you wander off the trails because there's too many people missing that go out, they go off trail, they think they know where they're at, and they're no longer there. They're no longer near the trail. They don't know where they're at. So my biggest thing is be safe about it and keep it real to yourself. And everything that you're going to find is not Sasquatch. You're going to have 6 to 8 months that you're not going to find anything. You're going to be just about ready to give up. And then the next thing you know, you're going to have your encounter of what is out there. It being a bear, it being a mountain lion, a deer, or a Sasquatch. Whatever encounter you have, document it. As far as I ran up a deer 11/18, 2018, document everything and keep it because you never know that one of these days you're going to look back and say, you know what, where I had that encounter, there's deer in that area, or there's a lot of bear population in that area. So document what animals is there because if you document your animals, you're more than likely documenting Sasquatch as well. Because wherever the bears go, the deers are, the fish are, the snakes are, the crawfish, uh, the water flowing, the even document your your springs. Document where all your springs are. So when you get a report, say, well, I was over on the mountain over yonder, most of the springs, and I had that encounter. Well, I know where that is. you know, if you, if there's that one spring in that mountain, and he's talking, it's about a mile from that spring up there, then you know where you were at. There has been a Sasquatch. So, and go, and I'm going to be honest with you, find this groups like the BFRO. They've got one of the best data reports on record as far as Sasquatch activity, encounters, stuff like that. Go to their database and find out where the Sasquatch reports are in your area. It may be from 10 years ago, but hey, they travel or they're in the area. You may be there when they are. So that's the way I do it. So just get organized about what you do, and keep it real to yourself. And when you go to share, if you keep it real to yourself, people are going to see how true you are and how dedicated you are to your research. Amen.
Amen, brother. I agree with that. That's the best shred of wisdom that anybody has ever given on this show. But again, Tracy, I really do thank you for coming on, my friend. You've always been good to me and everything. Be sure to go and I'll tell you what, I'll let you tell this. If anybody's in your area or they want to follow you, tell them where they can follow you at, Tracy.
Or you can follow me on Facebook at Tracy Arnold, and then on the Facebook page, the New River Valley Bigfoot Organization. And I got the YouTube channel. I just changed the name again. Hiking with Sasquatch Outlaw. And if you want to come on there, right now we have a live feed as we're talking. I've got a camera out in the mountain in a area we've had activity where the actual doorway is that was built for me. I've got it going now with I'm actually baiting tonight. Rotten ass turkey from Thanksgiving is right there behind the mirror. I got a mirror set up facing the live feed, so if anything comes around in front of the live feed, it'll glow it up. And then behind the live feed, I've got a light, and then on the other side of the mirror, I've got the rotten ass turkey with a light shining on it. So if anything comes in the night, we'll see what it is. More than likely a bear, coyote, or a raccoon. But hey, you've got to you've got to do what you got to do to put it out there to to try to collect evidence. We might get a vocal. We've gotten vocals from the area. So if you guys want to come and check that out, I'm live right now. So I'll be joining the chat here in about 15 minutes.
Yeah, be sure, guys, go ahead and if you haven't subscribed to Hiking with Sasquatch Outlaw, go to the description of this live feed and go down and hit subscribe and turn the little bell on so that way you know whenever Tracy Arnold goes live with Hiking with Sasquatch Outlaw. Tell him that Blimp sent you. Drop a like, comment, subscribe, interact with him. He's got a lot of good stuff going on. Be sure to check out New River Valley Bigfoot Organization. Be sure to follow Tracy on his Facebook. Look him up. Shoot him a friend request. Ask him questions. I'm sure he welcomes them. But until then, guys, thank you guys so much for turning out. To all the viewers that watched this live tonight, I do thank you guys for turning out for the season 4 premiere of Backwoods Investigations. I am your host, Zach Blimp Starrick, for the Southern Illinois Monster Hunters, with my guest, Tracy Arnold, saying, keep a wary eye out, keep your ears to the wind, and your nose on the ground. And I'll see you guys next time on Backwoods Investigations.
Keep
Good
it real.
night.